Come get a picture of me. Alright, so there we go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Today's video, we're going to be installing a bunch of parts on my GT350 right here. So as you can see, we're already taking apart a whole bunch. I'm kind of bringing you guys in the middle of this because what's kind of unique about this video, all of the parts you're going to see are parts that I made on my own little lathe and mill right there, except for one, or they're parts that are, we developed and, they're an actual thing you can get on our website, also linked below. So starting us off is a set of adjustable sway bar end links. At the time of me recording this, the CAD models have been sent out. So these are the original mock-ups, but our finished ones will look very similar. And what's cool about these is our adjustable spring kits. If you really want to make the most of our adjustable spring kits, again, videos to those I'll link below. You're going to want to corner balance the car. If you corner balance the car, if you want to do it properly, you're supposed to unhook the sway bar end links, do your corner balance. When you put them back on where there's zero preload. If the car, for whatever reason, corner balance weight, one corner might be a little higher or lower, fixed sway bar end links will then kind of, put a little preload back into the car. So they'll be nice to package along with our spring kits. I did a video actually making our solid bushings. So these are my prototypes that are actually on the car at the moment. So there's one right there, which would be this guy, and then one right there. Here is our adjustable rear perch, lower upper spring. Now we're putting this on because these are actually the finished parts. Our prototypes are actually this guy right here. So you can see that was our prototype, and here was our actually finished, sent to a machine shop to do. So we'll be putting our actual finished part on, pulling the prototype pieces out. This right here is the spacer that will take the place of this whole backing plate because I'm yanking the e-brake. Since this car is now a dedicated track car, I don't need the e-brake. Let me pull some weight out of it. The only thing out of all of this stuff that isn't mine are these little spacers. These were cheap enough to just get. So, but they will be going on. So finally the rear end, the rear subframe should be locked out. I think that's about it for machined or mechanical parts, suspension parts, I guess. We will be, as you can see, I finally made myself one of our carbon fiber trunks. These have been on the website for years now, actually, but finally got to make myself one. So we have to reinstall our wing kit right there. Here's the uprights, obviously. So these are full carbon fiber construction. Let's get a little light right here. So these are full carbon fiber construction inside and out, and we lay them up with extra layers of carbon where the wing bolts to make it a solid mount. Even though it's a trunk mount, it's a very solid mount because we can do that all in-house. So I think that's about it for the intro. I'll try and bring you in on random parts worth noting or whatever, time-lapse through some stuff, but yeah, let's just dive right in. So you can see we got the hub ready to press out that bushing right there. We got the control arm off as well. You didn't miss anything other than I'm doing a whole bunch of bolts. So there's the bushing. All right, and here we are ready to press in our solid bushing. So we're good to go on the hub side. All right, and again, our control arm. All right, so with the old bushing out, we can start on our solid bushing. And we're just going to finish these off with some snap rings. All right, snap rings in and we are done with the bushings. So before I put all the control arm and everything back in, I'm gonna put these spacers in. You can see I already lowered the subframe. The fat one goes on the front, like that. The rear one, kind of the same thing, just goes on top, and those little notches rest in it. Right like that. And on the front, you can see how this one's kind of cut so it fits around the rubber bushing. Whoops. Go up a tiny bit with the jack. I made myself my own centering spacers. I think I did that a couple videos ago, but they just kind of make sure everything stays lined up properly whenever you drop the subframe. So at this point, just going back in with your bolts and torque it down and you're done. All right, so now that they're all in and tight, what I'll do is I'll put a pry bar under here. And I'm pulling up on it pretty hard so you can see how they kind of lock out most of the rubber bushing, but not 100%. Now, funny enough, solid bushings for that would be easy enough to make, a pain in the butt to install. For those of you who are new here, you may not know this, but I put the same rear subframe in the GT350 in the race car. So you can see that's an S550 subframe in a 99 chassis, and it's easy enough to just make some solid bushings. That's just a giant spacer to get the angle with the chassis correct and everything. So I actually did I think it was like a 4-part video series of swapping a subframe into this chassis. I'll put a link to those down below if you're interested in that type of stuff. All right, so rear control arm is back in. Everything is torqued. So at this point, we're gonna work on the rear hub, spindle, knuckle, whatever you wanna call it. And this is where this little piece comes in. So here's your wheel bearing. This piece goes on right there, and what it does, like I mentioned earlier, it takes the place of this heavy cast iron, I don't know, backing plate holder, whatever, which holds all the e-brake stuff. Now obviously you can get rid of all of this without this thing, but you still save 5 pounds by swapping to this. So I'm going to try and do this one-handed. All right, so we're back on, and reinstall your 4 bolts. And then you want to torque everything to 98 foot-pounds. All right, so we're humming along, just so you can see it installed. There's our spacer. ABS sensors back in. What I did here, since I got rid of the e-brake cable, I just cut off the bit that I need to hold the ABS sensor cable. Everything is torqued. At this point, we got to put the brakes on. We got to tighten and torque the axle nut. But yeah, we're getting close. We'll probably jump on throwing in our rear spring perches real quick. All right, so quick tip on these axle nuts. You can see I have a screwdriver in here on the bottom side, of course, because I don't have anybody to help me. It's already torqued to 98 foot-pounds. And then the official torque setting is 98 plus 45. So you can see where I'm at. What I need to do is just come down until the ratchet is level with the ground, and there's about my 45 degrees. All right, so we're getting ready to install our rear spring coilover spring conversion kit. Again, this allows the use of a 2.5-inch coilover spring on the rear of any S550 Mustang. This is the upper perch right here. And pretty much to install it, you can see how this bolt is loose still. If you slide it up on an angle, and the trick is to have that T-nut catch on the studs that are poking out. So you want to get it in, and then you have to let it drop just enough. And when you feel it catch, then you can kind of just turn it like you would anything else. And the rear perch just kind of drops in right here. There is a set screw There it is, I can feel it with my finger. Personally, I like to kind of have it facing rearward. It's just kind of the easiest position to get in here to lock it down once you set your ride height. And then what we call the lower donut just comes underneath. I do have Loctite on these bolts, especially since they're facing upside down. Alright, so lower perch is locked in, and remember that set screw isn't done. So this is how you would adjust the ride height. We're going to come all the way down with it, because when we're all the way down, we can just go ahead and slip our spring in. I'm upping my car to 1,100 pound springs. First test out, I had thousands on it. But as you can see, with the lower perch all the way down, you can get the spring in. And I'm just going to reach underneath just enough to turn this to get it started. So that spring won't go anywhere. We will set the ride height and corner balance later. But there you go. That's pretty much it for installing our rear spring coilover conversion kits. Alright, so I swapped our front sway bar end link there. And you can see I'm on the stiff setting on the front sway bar. There's enough room here for an entire another hole for yet an even stiffer setting. So what I'm going to do is drill an extra hole. So that way I just have yet even more adjustment options. I think I'll be okay, but we'll find out. All I really did was take one of the washers from the sway bar end link and kind of push it, you know, almost as far as I could until it hit this bend in the sway bar right here, and that's kind of it. So not much more to it than that. And just like that, I now have 3 settings on my rear sway bar. I am a little bit off center. I mic'd it. It's only about 20 thousandths, but it looks a lot worse. But anyways, yeah, there we go. All right, and here it is, all buttoned up with our sway bar end link. Looking good. All right, guys, so moving on. Sway bar end links are on. And real world time, I honestly, in the beginning of this video, I forget what I said, but my pile of like parts is gone. I think the last thing is getting our wing reinstalled. I did a video kind of a little more detail oriented of how to install the wing, but basically put the uprights on the wing, put it on the trunk, make sure it's centered, mark and drill your holes, bolt it on. That's really all there is to it. The other thing I will close this video out with is removing all the e-brake stuff, and I'm going to remove the rear arch liners, you know, fender liners on both sides. So I'll weigh all that up. Might just be fun to know. I'll be leaving the front fender liners in. That is actually something that we tested in the rolling wind tunnel. If you want to see this car in the rolling wind tunnel, I'll put a tag of that video right here. But one of the things we did was test what I'll call several fender liner configurations with the wheels rotating and not. So interesting stuff there if you're into more of the aerodynamic side of things. All right, just like that, wing is on. Easy enough, handful of bolts around the foot plates, and that's it. We're gonna give it a quick test. All right, so there we go. I'll load it a little bit crooked. All right, so there we go. All right, so moving on, we're gonna wrap this video up real quick. Like I mentioned, we're gonna take some weights. Last and final thing is kind of see how much weight we pulled out of the car. This whole box of all the e-brake stuff. Now keep in mind, I did not remove the actual like handle, but even at this, we're at 16 pounds. Oh, you know what? I'm pulling the flap, so oops. 16 pounds, 14, so call it, we'll call it just about 17 pounds on the e-brake stuff, pretty good. About another 10 on the trunk. I will be removing the fender liners. I don't know, these might be a pound or so. So 1.7, another close to 2.5. So yeah, that's about it for this specific video. We're gonna have another one coming up pretty soon. I just picked up this guy right here, so finally getting a containment seat in this thing. If you go back to like the first track day video I did in this GT350, while the factory Recaros are nice for a factory seat, once you really start pushing a car, they don't hold you in adequately enough. And this, I just finished trimming it today. We just finished our carbon fiber under tray. Now this is almost an exact copy of a GT350 under tray. That's going to save a little bit more weight. It's stiffer than the factory one, and if I ever crash and need a replacement, I can just make one. Since I have the mold, they will be on the website soon enough. I want to do a track day or two with it before I get them up there. But that, you know, kind of goes on with our splitter. Oh, and we also made our little splitter side plate setup. So these guys right here. If you watched that wind tunnel video that I posted earlier, we tested these. Created a good amount of downforce on the front, so there'll be a upgrade option on our splitter kits, along with obviously our canards. Oh, and this one's cool. This guy right here might look like a little funny shaped thing. So we have our carbon fiber brake deflector kits now. What's cool about doing them in composites, you can see we kind of put this scoop in here that, let's see how easy I can do this. The way that it will catch and deflect the air puts it more towards the opening of the rotor hat rather than just, you know, a flat piece of aluminum. So we got those as well. So yeah, a bunch of stuff still coming up. Good amount of stuff in this video. So please hit that thumbs up and please consider subscribing. As always, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.